Recently, from this very lectern, I was asked if I was exuberant about any restaurants in town. Maybe I had a favorite restaurant, and what was it? I sort of demurred, I waffled, and I thought more about it, and I realized I do have one that I nearly despise. Matter of fact, I call them the Abercrombie and Fitch of restaurants. Does anybody understand that reference, Abercrombie and Fitch? Okay, let me explain. It's a little archaic. There was this clothing store. It was exclusive. And they're still around, by the way, but they've changed their tune, quite literally, over the years. But I can recall walking into one of their stores at the Mall of America, and I was assaulted by the loudest music. And it was, and I thought, this is the way you sell fashion? Really? And some of the people online were having fun with it. They were calling it cruel cool, man. And they were also joking, hey, the volume is so loud that these people don't realize they're overpaying for their fashions. See, there's reason for this. Let me pause in my presentation right now to get you all to give me, at the count of three, a group hell yeah. 1, 2, 3, hell yeah!
Yeah.
That's exactly what was blaring across the parking lot as me as my significant other stepped out of our car the other day, that redneck anthem, and we stepped into the Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse parking lot. Anybody ever heard of the Texas Roadhouse Steakhouse? I got a show of hands here. Most people have. That's good. Steaks, chicken, fish. They do a great job, and you show up at the right time, you can even get a line dance from the employees, right? Isn't that kind of cute? Yeah. The bottom line here is they serve up more decibels than Texas toast. Seriously. We've redubbed it, the Texas Loud House. The Loud House. Yes, that's where we're going for dinner. Today's new country music is bad enough. It's got the usual tropes and cliches, but to hear it at high volume and to try to enjoy a meal with it, I mean, my goodness gracious, when the volume is so high that you really can't sit across the table, about 3 feet or 4 feet across the table from your significant other, and actually hold a conversation with them, I think there's a problem. Hey, how's the food over there? Yeah, fish okay? Great. And recently, after we ordered, I did what every average customer does. I decided to go for some apps. No, not the apps you're thinking about. I picked up my phone and I decided I was going to download some apps. And you're probably saying, Dave, what kind of apps are you talking about? I decided it would be a good idea to download a couple of decibel meters. And let's just find out how darn loud it is in this restaurant. And so I used a couple of different decibel meters to kind of get an average here. We're talking about somewhere between 80 and 90 decibels. 80 and 90 decibels. Think about that. And close to 100 on some peaks there as well. This is flat out painful. But you're saying to yourself, Dave, come on, 80 to 90 decibels. What does that mean? Our good friends at the federal government, who haven't been laid off just yet, try to keep track of this stuff. And they basically figure that 8 hours of exposure to 80 to 90 decibels is probably a hazardous situation if you were to sit in there for 8 hours. Or think about those poor workers who have to pull a 6 to 8 hour shift and have to be exposed to this stuff. Imagine that. Again, a hazardous workplace. But you're probably saying, hey, how loud is that? Well, let's look at the continuum here. Everything from sniffles to raking leaves, all the way up to jet engines. And our friends at 80 to 90 decibels are right there in the middle. We're talking about loud trucks. We're talking about hair dryers. We're also talking about helicopters. This can be very loud. And I'm not the only one who thinks that the good old loud house is a loud house. Matter of fact, if you take a look at this survey that was done of restaurants and noise levels, on the far left is the ever copacetic Panera and IHOP. I don't sense that there would be a lot of noise ordering pancakes, but if you go to the far right and you look at the higher level of volume continuum over here on the right, well, a couple of restaurants I've never heard of before, but on the third row from the right, why, it's a good old Texas Loud House right there. Yep, they're nationally recognized. And surveys suggest volume is a frequent complaint of diners and something owners don't spend much time worrying about, to tell you the truth. Maybe I'm just too old and maybe I've attended too many rock shows and my ears are just too old. Who knows? Eventually, the manager showed up to ask the usual questions. And you know what those are. Hey, how's the food? How's the service this evening? The simple answer is fine. You got another problem. And I basically suggested to him that the loud house is where good conversation goes to die. And seriously, it does. And he had a tough time hearing us, actually. We had to repeat some of our questions. Surprisingly, it was difficult. He admitted the volume might be too high. They had a bigger crowd in earlier, that sort of excuse, that sort of thing. And well, they might have to turn it down. I'll tell you what, that volume did not go down during my visit. No way, no how. But I did some thinking about this, and I thought to myself, well, look at the positive here. This is a perfect place for taciturn Minnesotans who like to take people out on dates and don't really like to make conversation to go to, because you have an excuse for not yelling over the din. And also, it's a great place to lose a little hearing while you're having dinner. Now, I can't swear off the the Loud House, permanently here, because somebody has given me $50 worth of incentive to show up once again. So I am resigned to at least one more visit. But this time I'll either be wearing hearing protection or I'll be stuffing dinner rolls in my ears to do something about that noise, so I can stand yet another visit to the loudest steakhouse in Texas. Bon appetit.